it's like I haven't digested my story. But then I got to, she kept talking about failure, and failure being, you know, a part of what they really are doing with their audience, and how they work with, you know, I guess a lot of their audience and community are women. 75% of them are entrepreneurs, but they're women, business, that whole kind of demographic, and really wanting to cultivate a place that's safe to talk about the missteps and failures and challenges, you know, rather than highlight reels and whatnot. And so it had me really reflecting on failure, and, you know, and even having these like, I'm like, oh, I don't really identify with failure. And I'm like, well, that's interesting, because I've been in this whole like, what the fuck kind of phase, right? And then I kind of got to, which was interesting, because I realized this was already coming out in some of my points in my talk, which, by the way, the structure you gave me was fucking fantastic. And the next day in the morning, I just went like, oh, had a really great, yeah. So it's super coming along, and I'm feeling really great about it. And, you know, I'm still figuring out what my 3 main points are, which is hilarious, since that's like the bulk of the thing. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit today, kind of flesh that out more, because I do find sometimes I can be complicated.
Come on.
Which really works for people who like complexity, but that's not always. I don't want to be over people's heads.
Right.
Or just kind of too, anyway, but each of those pieces, you know, I know that the what's really wanted from the speakers are personal stories and personal narrative. And so what I do want is for each of those 3 key points, be weaving my own story through it.
Just pause just for a sec.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Brené Brown's talk on Netflix?
Yes.
Okay. She's a great one to watch around structure.
Okay.
Because that talk is so canned. Like, she's done it a zillion times. But the way she weaves personal stories, and you can actually watch that whole talk and see Act 1, Act 2, Act 3.
Oh, interesting. I'm going to rewatch it from that perspective.
Yeah. That she weaves personal stories in very well. So if you're looking for an example, that's a really good one.
Okay, great. Awesome. Yeah. So in our Instagram Live tomorrow, we're going to be talking about, you know, and so I just, here I've been trying to work on a piece to put out in a mailer and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, finally it's like, oh, I'm doing this Instagram Live, so I'm going to send this to my list and let them know. And then it was really easy to write this little thing, and which we sent out this morning, and I touched in on failure, and part of what I wrote is like, I've been actually pretty dissociated from it, because I was raised with, at first I had this whole thing about my dad, which I ended up taking out, but like kind of this, like there's no such thing as failure. Everything is just a step on your path, and you know, that I can silver lining anything. And but then the last line of mine was like, ooh, that hooked me, is but this tendency to step up and step through and push through and carry on led to a failure so absolute that it broke my identity, body, and heart all at once. Good line, eh? And I just started weeping as I wrote it. And then I went, that's what I'm now integrating, is that story, which is the culmination of workaholism. And the way that I totally internalized this strive, drive, capitalistic, ambitious thing in our culture, but I didn't want to admit it to myself because I wasn't identified with that. Like what I really realized reflecting the other day is I remember feeling like I'm taking on too much. This isn't aligned. It's not what I want to be doing. It's not how I want to be doing it. But I had so much success early. So this is jumping off on that hair salon. Like, I would jump into something, I'd get a bunch of success, a bunch of clients, be of service, feel really good about it. And I just kept scaling that up. And until I started saying yes to things that weren't for me, and started to, it's like I'd always been driven by something, and that something felt like a real sense of calling and purpose and desire to be of service. And at some point, something else was driving me. And there was anxiety, and I had something to uphold now, and all these expectations that I felt like I had to meet, and people that I would let down, and an identity that I would let down if I pivoted. And it started to feel like a train I couldn't get off, and I didn't until I burnt out. And I think part of why I didn't get off it is that thing about internalizing the values of the culture to keep going and keep growing, even when what it felt like my heart and my soul and my body needed was something else. And if I admitted to myself, fuck other people, but them too, but if I admitted to myself that I was being driven by some kind of compulsion, that I had somehow failed at living what I was teaching and being, which is this whole alignment with purpose. So I just kind of kept pretending to myself that I was on purpose. And it got harder and harder and harder. And then my health, and then all these personal losses, mental health challenges, and multiple people in my family, and death, and just got like personally beaten. And I just fucking overestimated my capability. It's like I'd had this history of, I can handle it. I've got all this capacity. I've got all these skills. Whatever's handed to me, I can rise to it. And so I just kept trying to rise to it. And I was like, and I extracted from my body, the way we extract from the earth. I did that to my body. There, like some combination of naivety and arrogance had me just keep overestimating my capacities so that I could uphold this thing.
Wow. Let's put my earbuds on.
Yeah.
Okay. Just so that we can stay private. Connected.
Thanks for listening.
Oh, that was gorgeous.
That's what I'm.
Hold on. No device connected. Or I'll just change rooms. I can do that too. Connected. Okay. Okay, say something.
I'm saying something.
Okay.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. Wow. So your Instagram live tomorrow is about failure.
Yeah.
So you have this recording.
Yeah.
You can listen to it, but you basically, did your whole talk tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right now. So as a thought, just something to consider for you. Every time that you go live on anything that will be public and promoted and it's like one of your silent, not silent, it's one of your, it's like all of your media are like little employees of yours, and your media is carrying your message out there for you so that you don't have to.
Okay.
So it's really important that you show up tomorrow grounded in the work you're here to do, even if you're talking about failure, which isn't the work that you're here to do.
Yeah.
So every time the mic goes on, the light goes on, the thing goes on, ground into what you're actually all about, like what your work is all about, so that you speak through that filter. And so with that in mind, tell me a little bit, and I've got your story about failure, but tell me a little bit about how that experience of pretending that you were on purpose, and as a result being extracted from your body, and the lie you were telling yourself about, I can handle it, whatever it is, I can always have more capacity, and tell me more about how this teaching of alignment with purpose, tell me about failure from that place.
Can you ask the question in a...
So for example, this is what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
I want you to have a phrase in your head that says, as what do you call yourself? An executive coach, a life coach, or what do you call yourself?
Integral coach.
Integral coach. Okay. So as an integral coach, when I went through blah, 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 this is what I learned. So that, and the crazy thing is most people won't know what the hell an integral coach is.
Yeah.
Right?
I will also often say developmental coaching. People know that a little bit more, personal and professional development coach.
And so how would someone identify if they didn't know the jargon of development, or they didn't know the jargon of integral? What do they need? What do they actually, like, I know what you do from an outside in, but from the inside out, what do you do? What are you about?
I'm about helping people develop the capabilities that they need to carry out their visions.
Okay, got it. Okay. So this is not your language. I'm just gonna throw some spaghetti at the wall. I'm gonna say, as an integral coach, which is really development I'm passionate about personal development, and helping people really live that vision and everything that goes with that. Failure to me is about blah, blah, blah. So I want you to have your go-to phrase of what is the door you're inviting your listeners into? Like, what room are they walking into to understand what your story of failure was? Because what you don't want them to remember is your failure story.
Right.
To remember, this is what she does, and this is how this woman who does this handled failure.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So to me, at least my experience of failure, or what failure does is it, I think what it does is the impact is it destabilizes us. It destabilizes us and it humbles us. And the opportunity that it is that we become more intimate. If we can really not rail against it, we become more intimate with who we really are and what we're really about.
Yes! So can you tell me about that failure story and tell us about being destabilized. Tell us about becoming more intimate with yourself.
Well, with this, you know, so a thread that has been through all my work, you know, from owning a hair salon, which is a very different industry, to being a coach, is what I've one thread of my work or purpose has always been about people loving their work. So my main focus in the salon was around the team and around the culture we were building, and what it was like to work in that environment and how I was with my staff. And so for me, when I started to have a lack of alignment in my own work, or started to not even lack of alignment. So when I, you know, I've had this like philosophy and ideology that we can approach our work in a way that really works for us, that works for our families, that works for the world. And then somewhere along the line, I started overworking and pushing and feeling gripped by something that was totally out of integrity with these kind of core tenets of my knowing and my philosophy. And the big failure for me was not knowing what that was and not listening to it and denying it because I now had some level of success and people relying on me and expectations that I felt like I had to uphold. And so upholding those, I stopped.
I want to hold you to the destabilizing center of, when you said big failure, my big failure was not knowing what that was. And then you said the logical pieces that we'll all understand, which are when we're out of alignment, I stopped listening and but my big failure was not knowing what that was. That's destabilization.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that place. Only because, not because it's interesting. It's actually super fucking interesting, but it's actually what your work is, right? Like when I think about the conversations we've had of the muck and the location, self-location, right? We're actually right on the vein of your core coolness. Like this is your jam,
right?
This is this thing. So tell me about, is it possible that your big failure of not knowing what that was even may have led you to this work that you do now because you didn't know what it was?
Well, so I think there's a both and there, because a lot of the work that I was doing, I think this is what was so destabilizing, is I had done a lot, you know, as an entrepreneur, I'd stepped into unknown so many fucking times. I had all this trust and faith in the unknown. I would go like, we'll just dive in and we'll work it out. And then it would work out. And so I've held a lot of people in that, you know. So much of my work is when people are going, I want this thing and I have no idea how to get there, or I know where I'm at is not where I want to be, but I don't know how to move because I don't know where I am, or so that working with the unknown and working with an emerging future is where I played. But then being in my own, and like there were lots of kind of phases of destabilization that I was navigating and was aware that I was navigating, and was even able to share about with students and community of like, oh, there's this whole I don't know where I am piece. but where the real, there was something about my identity, like
Yes.
without knowing it, I started to believe that I had to, there was something performative that snuck in. I had to know where I was going. I had to know where I was. I had to uphold something for other people in a way where I started to where I was distrusting my own instincts.
Yeah. Would you say that you dropped the zone of I don't know, which is where instincts happen because you actually don't know? So but there's that both end, because you do know that's what an instinct is, but you don't know. And you traded it for this thing of upholding, having to uphold for other people. I had to know where I was going. I had to know.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is the part where it feels like the internal experience, the difference was the internal experience was, for a long time, I felt deeply aligned, and like what I'm here to do was coming through me. So it had a something greater than me that I'm the vessel for.
Right.
Healing in my being.
Yeah.
And along the way, the felt experience that shifted of this feeling like I needed to uphold something, it felt more not like something was going through me, but like I was generating. And again, the upholding, meeting expectations, it was like, it was unconsciously egoic.
That's true.
So instead of coming through me and doing my work and being on purpose, I now had an image of myself and what I was capable of, or what I should be doing, that started to drive the bus.
Yeah. So what's the failure, Chela?
That as that happened, I drove that bus into a massive burnout.
Pause for a sec. Is the failure the burnout? Is the failure that I drove the bus? What's the failure?
The failure, was that I drove the bus. It was like it's so funny because as you go, the failure, and I go, it's like, well, I don't really fucking believe in failure. I think that's part of it. It's like, it's right. So, but using the term failure, I mean, but if I were to say that the failure was somewhere, it was in allowing my what I'd become identified with to drive the bus. This unconscious egoic thing. It's what I became identified with. And I actually think that's a struggle of a lot of people who've met a certain level of success. Is they can't innovate and take risks in the same way that they used to, because now they've got something to uphold.
And it led you to burnout.
It led me to burnout. It led me to, I mean, as far as telling stories, I'd have to check with my husband how much he's okay with me talking about things. But between you and me, he ended up in a psych ward, suicidal. And I was more focused on what he wasn't upholding in our relationship and in his work. And I missed how sick he was. So this drive to uphold and push forward and make shit happen, it led to burnout. It led to I mean,
missing. I say missing how sick he was.
Missing in a way that really, really impacted my marriage. And just like, I just felt like, and that's part of what it fucked with my identity, is I was identified with being somebody who's so attuned to others. And I missed stuff. And I even missed years with Phoenix of being really attuned to what was going on for him. So it's like I missed.
That's your word. I missed. Yeah.
So it's like
the woman with the most capacity.
Yeah.
Missed.
I missed the most important things. Yeah. And the most important things that I was sure I was attending to. But I was actually attending to upholding my identity.
So that beautiful little piece that you just said about, I was sure that those are the phrases that, I'm not trying to be like, anyway, just say it, Tina. Those are the phrases that make your cash register ring.
Right.
Because lots of people can talk about burnout. Lots of people can talk about drive, costing them things. But what you're talking about is actually the unconscious egoic drive. You're talking about misplacing your identity, but believing it was all there. Mm-hmm. You're talking about blind spots. Yeah. That's when people take their wallet out, especially for the work that you do. They're like, this woman sees my blind spot. I didn't even see that blind spot until she just said it. Oh my God, she's fucking amazing.
Right.
This is your mastery. Again. Okay. That was gorgeous, Chela. That was so beautiful.
Thanks.
To witness. Wow. Okay. Can I give you I will send it to you as well, but I'm going to give you a stock I story so that you know what the structure is, because there is a structure.
Yeah.
It starts with, I haven't done it for a long time. Hold on. Oh yeah. So this is who I am and what I do. And this is what my life used to look like. Yep. Then this happened. Mm-hmm. I learned this, and now I know this. Mm-hmm. Want to come with me? That's it. That's all an I story is.
So this is who I am and what I do?
Yeah.
This is what it used to look like.
Yeah. So it's like, this is who I am and what I do, and here's why. Because it used to look like this.
Right.
But then this happened. So I learned this. And now this is what I see. This is my new vision. Want to come? Mm-hmm. And those fucking classic I stories can be like so formulaic, and you can see through them unless you're willing to actually use your language, like your work.
Right.
Like people can get distracted by the details, like the hard details. Your story is not what your husband went through.
Yeah.
That might be like, you don't want your story to be remembered by, oh, that woman who had the husband who did that thing that she missed.
Right.
You want and this is what happened to me. I lost my fucking identity. I actually started to believe an identity that wasn't even mine. And I pretended. And in that pretending, I started to believe what I was pretending. And I burnt out, and I missed this. I missed the most crucial blah, 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 blah. Now, I'm obviously not giving anything personal because I'm just giving you like the formula, right? But like, keep driving it home to what is crucial to you. Be willing to bring in your failure story one thing that's crucial.
Hmm.
And then those who are waiting exactly for you will hear it.
Right.
And failures are different than obstacles.
Totally.
Right? Failures are flat out, and obstacles are just things in the way. And this was a flat out, right? Like holding that space of what you missed. If you're willing to share from that space, doesn't have to be the details.
Yeah.
But do a little riffing on your writing around missing what I missed, and pull out the 3 safest hard ones and share those, or share at least one of them anyway. Know what your go-to is. Oh, Chela, the woman with the most capacity missed it. Oh. Wow. Yeah.
And what's great is that I don't have to share about ICC or any of that. It's like, and yet when I reflect back on that time, how much that the identity of having a lot of capacity and being so resilient was constantly being reinforced by the owners. And that's the part where I go, oh, fuck, there was some real like gaslighting and emotional manipulation happening when I would be like, this is off and I'm not okay. And it was like, you're so resilient.
Chela, is it possible to gaslight yourself?
Yeah. That's what the lie is, right? That's what the lying about the identity is. Right. So then when they would say it, it's like, oh yeah, I want to believe that. I don't think there was any intentional manipulation at all. There's so much love and a desire for this thing to work. So we had this mutual thing. I think the part that I felt hurt by over time is when I looked at the areas where they would mentor me or work with me, it was always around keep going versus like, let's actually take a step back and really look at if maybe, because I would go, I don't know if this is right. I don't know if this is right. No, let's keep going. But why it kept going was this trying to uphold this identity.
So you essentially gaslit yourself.
Yeah.
And then you worked for a company that gaslit you.
It happened while I was working for the company.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. But in this hair salon, you gaslit yourself by believing. No?
This was all in the last 3 years. The hair salon was great.
No, but what's the upholding? Oh, the upholding isn't about the hair salon.
No, the upholding just happened.
Gotcha. Okay.
No, the salon was like, okay. I just kept, the salon was actually, it was 8 years there was some real hard times, but I was like, as soon as I went, this isn't aligned, I'm out of here.
Gotcha.
I sold it and that money supported me and as a single mother and going back to school and starting my business. And that was all like, again, those kinds of things reinforced this identity of my capacity.
Okay. So 3 simple statements to go into this story tomorrow. And forgive me, I'm not, my whole thing around this is how do you market without markety schmarkety?
Right.
How do you actually stay authentic? And it's just, it's formulaic. It's like, Chela, my work in the world is blank. My failure in that is, and my, what's the word? My crucial insight for you is, like my awakening almost for you is, so that you are invited to, and not that you're going to sell them, but it's like when you share that crucial insight of about you of the capacity and not taking a step back and losing your identity, right? They will feel invited because they will self-identify with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but that's, so if you follow that kind of formula tomorrow, rooted in what's real for you, you will have maximized your time.
So I went and wrote those 3 things down, and then the first one and the last one I wrote down the same, so I don't think I did it right. So first is I'm Chela, my work in the world is. My failure in that work is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what's the third one?
My crucial insight for you is, or what's crucial for you to know. How about that? From that failure, right? And then if you had a fourth one, it would be, so you're invited now to, which, you know, you probably won't do that because it's a conversation, but
although we're talking about rise, so it might be the invitation.
Okay.
To rise.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. Because how do you rise from failure, or what's the rise in failure, or?
Well, and I think even specific to this conversation, it's like, you know, I think specific to this conversation, part of the crucial insight is how do we allow our failures and even our successes to bring us into greater alignment and intimacy with who we really are and the work we're really here to do, and not become falsely identified with the failure or the success. Let me just write
that's your closing sentence right there. Or that's your opening sentence of your failure story. And then you tell your story. How do we allow our failures to help us align? Hold on a sec, honey. I'm just going to receive something at the door. Is everything okay, Jordan? Okay, I'm back. There we go.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Every time I talk to you, I can hear your book, hey? I'm like, oh my God. I think there's a whole like chapter on unconsciously egoic with stories of people.
For sure. I mean, well, so one of the things, maybe if we could pivot this into the talk, because then we're also talking, the talk is about inspiration to integration.
Yeah.
Right. So while it's a bit of a different, you know, I'm talking about my own story, but one of the ways that I really work with people are around their own identities and ways of being and approaches to things. And so I'm bringing that work, that understanding of how to work deeply with ourselves to bring about our visions into when we, you know, go to a conference or attend a course or engage with other people's work and we gain inspiration from it. How do we actually integrate what we're receiving? So that it becomes, it's not just more noise or more mind snacks or something to even compare ourselves to and fall short of, but integrates as part of our own that we can take forward in our own expression. And so, you know, we'll be touching on that tomorrow of how to do that, or that the talk is about how to do that. But when I'm looking at the 3 kind of key pieces, you know, the first one to me is about the unconscious, our unconscious drivers, the things that are blind spots. And so, you know, I've got a personal story, which is interesting. When I thought of the personal story to share, it's actually pre all of this. And it was like when I was younger, and actually about my pace and having this drive. And by not being able to be at other paces, I couldn't integrate things. I couldn't slow down. I couldn't get traction in certain ways. But it was actually my drive to be of service and contribute and all of that was driving the space, but it was the very thing that was thwarting it. So I haven't worked that specific talk out, but the kind of back frame part is that our unconscious is always going to lead. And that when we leave so when we try to integrate new concepts or build new capabilities or take away all this inspiration and then go implement it into our life and our work, we're going to have a way that we tend to approach things. And if we aren't trying to make conscious that way, then it's going to drive, and we're going to do things how we used to do things, and we're going to get what we used to get.
So can you finish the sentence for me? When you leave here, audience, your unconscious is always going to lead. So do this. So name, identify, and watch for your way. Bingo. And then you tell a story about your way. Because you're right. You can't give them everything. You've just got to give them one thought, right? One principle. And then one thing to do about that principle.
Well, and we might even right there in the talk. So what's your tendency? Oh, I know I do this. Or I know I don't do that. So what's your tendency?
Love it.
And then, so I see that as being part one. And then part two, you know, assuming I do the three parts, as my coach told me to. Part two would be when we talked about self-violence. So self-violence is really the more kind of shocking way to say, don't basically honor yourself. That if we don't honor our current way, if we don't honor our tendencies, if we just make them wrong, then we're railing against something and it's just going to perpetuate it. Versus actually getting under what is that way trying to carry out. And being
so
really to it.
Your sentence might be, self-violence happens. Self-violence happens, but not to you if you, or self-violence happens, so do this so it doesn't happen to you. You obviously don't have to use that, but boy, if you want to grab people's attention, that's a phrase, self-violence. Like, what the fuck is she saying? Oh my God, lean in. So, because if you open with honor yourself, everybody says that. I'm not saying that isn't real, but
no, I know. No, I definitely want to lead with, but that's what the underlying piece is about self-violence. But even identifying what is self-violence? It's your negative self-talk. It's your driving you to push through things. It's even your, I need a break, so I'm going to check out. Oh, it's even recognizing I'm being violent to myself, so instead I'm going to eat 5 burgers and watch Netflix for 4 hours. Also self-violence.
Yeah.
So
back to integration, inspiration to integration. How does self-violence happen from inspiration?
Is that we start to see when we get inspired by something and we want to bring it into our life, it happens by comparing and self-shaming.
That's where I was going to go to. Yeah, that's what I heard you say. Yeah.
It happens by having an idea or ideal.
Right.
I'm inspired by that. I'm going to go do that. And then not doing it. So it happens by not taking the action that you saw for yourself. It happens when the state goes away.
Mm-hmm.
So often when we're inspired, that juice, it feels like, oh, that juice is going to be there. And then when that juice isn't there, we go, what's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
Or what's wrong with my idea? Or maybe I'm on the wrong path.
Yeah. So then we don't integrate any of the learning.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Point 3. Not that you need to, 2's enough, but if there is a third one.
Yeah, well, so point 3 is actually engaging with the body, integration through the body.
Okay.
And so to me, this is actually the point where we're going to do some integration already. And this is where, okay, so we've talked about a tendency. They've maybe even identified their own form of self-violence in response to that tendency.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Writing that down. And so then part 3 is going to be working to generate what is that tendency and that form of self-violence or not honoring of the tendency. What does that feel like in the body? And then having them take an exaggerated shape of that in their body and modeling it. And then from there, coming to the one nugget. So in my moving from Act 1 to Act 2, at the end of Act 1 is actually where I do a state experience. But to lead into that, I'm going to pull from the different nuggets we've received over the weekend and like what's really stands out and like, was it this, and like get people to shout it out and like, okay, it's this one. And then like get everybody kind of culty like ramped up in a trust me, but let's do it, create a state experience about it. And then have that lead into this is going to die. It's going to die even in thought.
Wow.
And so what are you going to do with that? And that's where we move into how do you actually integrate? If you can't rely on a state, how do you integrate? So in this third one, really feeling in their body, their way, their posture, their pace, exaggerate it. And then, okay, so if we come back to one of the nuggets that was really inspiring to you that you really want to integrate, not as a juiced up state, but what's that quality? What's that characteristic? Maybe hear from a few people. Now what's that like in the body? And model that. So if the characteristic is like, oh wow, I was so inspired by that person's like radical self-acceptance. Like, okay, so if your tendency is to compare and contract and that's this in the body, then what's radical self-acceptance for you? It might be like this in the body or something, right?
Yeah.
So having them take that posture and breathe into that posture. So they're starting to integrate and feel those places right away.
So then the sentence, the teaching point is something like, it's like, I want to say something like the body doesn't lie, or the body brings it home, or embodiment is hooks it in, or
body brings it home.
Yeah.
Feels really great.
Okay.
And then I can talk a bit about embodiment.
Yeah.
Okay. So the third point is actually about embodiment, and then that exercise is the integration.
Yeah. And you've just given them 3 things to help them be inspired to integrate. Tangible.
And while actually working to do the integration with them. Yeah.
Yes. Well done.
Thanks. And what's cool is I'm actually going to be making a practice series that the conference people are going to, that all the participants can get access to. But I'm going to be making it in a way that it can apply to anybody who's trying to integrate anything. So I can actually use it for the participants.
Awesome. I love it. Are you doing a PowerPoint?
With my talk? I don't know. Should I?
No. So I'm always about leverageability, right? So it's like every time I build one awesome thing, like this is your awesome thing. You've got this keynote, right? So I would build a super duper simple. I'll send you one I didn't use at the talk I just did in Regina, so you can see it. It's ridiculously simple, but now I have a tool that I can use from the talk I gave, because this work will show up again. You will have this conversation again in your coaching, and now you've got a slide deck that you can even give it all to Bonnie. You could give it to Bonnie and just say, "Can you build me a slide deck based on this talk?"
Right.
And it's just visuals. It's just that leveraging thing. Like, you now have another tool. That's all. You don't have to, but you've got it. And it also helps you turn this. You have 40 minutes on stage?
An hour.
Okay. This by having a slide deck, it will give you, you'll be able to give it in 20 minutes somewhere else.
Right. Cool.
You can even like do a voiceover and record it. Like you can record a 20-minute thing of what you just did as an hour.
Right.
You know, like use it.
I think that's going to be, what I'm thinking is it's these 3 pieces.
Yeah.
That I'm going to then look at blowing out.
Yeah.
1 to 2 practices per section.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I totally hear that. Yeah.
Okay.
Good job. Okay, how are you?
Good. I feel kind of jacked up.
You're awesome. Yeah, inspiration's hit, right? The juices are flowing.
Yeah.
Anything sticking for you that surprised you?
That surprised me. I think maybe just this kind of newer, more refined insight around this particular failure, that what it was really about was becoming identified with a false self and what that made me miss. Yeah.
That's a game changer for people. Hey, that's a total game changer. Permission to name that restlessness that they're having inside, but they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, when you tell that story, I was self-identifying with something that wasn't mine, but felt like mine. That's huge. It's huge, honey. Well done. Good. Cool. And what you missed. Anything you need?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Feels really good.
Good.
I think, well, we'll see how my talk, I'm just looking at my calendar now. Are we on next week too? Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, and I have not too much time, but a little bit of time until yoga. So I'm going to, I don't know, maybe I'll just go nurse my baby. I'm actually feeling kind of full.
Yeah. Good.
This is great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll send you, just so you have it, even though I think you wrote it down, but the why story, or what they call an I story. So you have that. And that's, it's funny. You're what I love about you is you're so process and strategy at the same time. It's like deep process, and then we lock into, and now go. I love it. I love it.
Thanks.
So, okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
I'll see you next week. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, hey, do you want my credit card number?
Oh, yes. I think I do.
I wasn't on automatic because.
Oh, okay.
Because, and you'd emailed me, and anyway, so I was waiting for a new credit card.
Okay. I'm ready.
So it's a MasterCard. It's 5524 8900.
Yeah.
Actually, do you want to just stop recording? I don't know. I feel paranoid.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, we should stop recording. Duh. Silly me. Oh my God. Pause recording. Just stop recording. Stop recording. Yes.